Welcome back to the Star Carter Personal Finance. We are on the live stream right now at 11:05 on this beautiful Wednesday. This is August the 21st. So I hope you are able to tune in. I wanted to bring you some news because I know that a lot of our young children love the app TikTok. They love the games. They love doing all the dancing and all that stuff, doing all the different the dance challenges. But are our kids safe on this app? Is the question that I'm asking you guys today because the Department of Justice have filed a lawsuit on behalf of the Federal Trade Commission that is saying that no, our kids are not safe. Their privacy is not safe on the TikTok app. That's what they are alleging. So you know I'm gonna bring y'all the receipts. So let me see who's gonna come on in. And as you come in today, please let me know where you're from and where you're streaming in from. And give me some hearts in the chat. Let me know that you hear me and that we are live and we are outside. And I'm going to bring you this information. All right. So let's go ahead while I'm waiting to see more people come inside of the live stream. Let me go ahead and just stream the news article. And then I got some other points that I'm going to pull up that is very important because if you have kids that is under the age of 13, their privacy information as a child, as a minor child, could be compromised out here because of the app TikTok. Now, this is allegedly, but there is a lawsuit. So you guys, thank you so much. I got a heart just pulled up. Thank you so much, Liz. And so guys, we just got to be careful, especially our younger kids, because they love the app. The TikTok is more targeted to me towards the younger generation of users, right? Because it's so much fun and da 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 da. So we got to be careful. So let me go ahead and pull up one of these news clippings, and then we'll get into an actual article that came from the Federal Trade Commission. And I also have the case docket as well. So you know when I go hard to get the receipts, I'm trying to get all the receipts. Okay. So here we go. Let's go ahead and let's get into this article real quick. Well, the actual broadcast. We're gonna do the broadcast first.
On Friday, the Department of Justice filed suit against TikTok and its China-based parent company ByteDance, arguing that the platform failed to protect children's privacy online. This is just one of many major legal battles TikTok is currently embroiled in. It's a good time to be a TikTok attorney. Lots of money coming in. Mary David is a former prosecutor. She joins us now with more. Mary, welcome back. Good to see you. So this lawsuit is alleging that TikTok violated the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. What is that? What's the allegation here?
The allegation here, the Department of Justice is alleging that TikTok has engaged in these privacy violations where they are collecting personal information of children 12 and under without parental consent. Even when parents have tried to get these accounts removed, TikTok has instituted some hurdles for that. And this is coming after a 2019 injunction against TikTok for their previous violations. So this is not looking good for them. And they are actually going to be subject potentially to $51,000 per violation per day.
So that's the DOJ argument. What's TikTok's argument?
Well, TikTok is really arguing, particularly when it comes to the lawsuit and these allegations, that they have really ramped up all of their procedures, that this is really going back to previous allegations. But what will really determine if it holds water is whether they've kept track of all of the ways that they've outlined these protections. And the Department of Justice is saying that they haven't.
Meanwhile, the bigger issue across the country is this question about TikTok's future. The government, the president, Congress saying, ByteDance, you got to sell TikTok to somebody that's in America. China can't be in charge of that. Where are we at on that?
This one is definitely more dicey and less straightforward in that TikTok is arguing that there are free speech protections that protect their use of proliferating this app to U.S. citizens. They argue that they aren't engaging in any unfair practices and that it's unfair for the United States to just go ahead and force them to make this sale. The U.S. government, on the other hand, is alleging that this is not in the category of free speech. They're trying to regulate the mechanism that the free speech is operating under. And they're saying this really goes back to a bigger national security risk. National security falls under a separate category when it comes to free speech. And it's a lot harder to get those kinds of protections when you're risking national security interests.
And they say that there's all sorts of classified data that points to the fact that they're concerned about China spying on us via TikTok, but they haven't laid out any of that evidence actually for the American people to see. Meanwhile, you were concerned a little bit by what one of the TikTok leaders said to Congress when asked about spying.
This I found particularly disturbing. During the congressional hearings on this issue, the TikTok founder, he was questioned about directly, is ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, spying on U.S. citizens? And he said, I don't think that spying is the right way to frame this, which wasn't really very reassuring. It also speaks to the fact that just because there hasn't been anything that's publicly disclosed, there are national security briefings that have been shared internally, and that's what really needs to be evaluated.
And it is one of the only things that bring Republicans and Democrats together right now. It seems to be this concern about TikTok, although President Trump saying that he will protect TikTok if he is reelected as the president. Mary David, thank you so much. Really interesting stuff. We know so many people are on that app.
All right, guys. So the reason why I'm bringing this to you is because I just did a video because of the National Public Data Breach, right? That just exposed billions of records, including social security numbers, names of parents and siblings of American people, also past addresses and everything. So there's a major data breach going on right now. And like I said, I just did a video about that. So with this lawsuit right here coming up against TikTok from the Department of Justice on behalf of the Federal Trade Commission, this is another concern about our children's information, whatever information that they are sharing on TikTok, on the platform TikTok, their email address or whatever it is that could possibly, I meant to say, be out there in cyber world, and we have no idea, even though parents are saying that even when they tried to make sure that TikTok took down those accounts or whatever it was, that they were not complying. So I have another article that I'm going to pull up. Now, this one right here is coming from the Federal Trade Commission. Give me a second. And this is from the Federal Trade Commission's actual website. You know, all my receipts, I will put it in the description box of this video after I get done with the live streaming. So it says right here, the Federal Trade Commission investigation leads to lawsuits against TikTok and ByteDance for flagrantly violating children's privacy laws. Now, we got to understand that a lot of kids love to be on this app, okay? A lot of kids. And they failed to comply. They failed to comply with the COPA, okay? They failed to comply. And I'm going to also read a little bit from the actual court case, the docket itself, okay? So on behalf of the Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Justice sued video sharing platform TikTok, its parent company, ByteDance, as well as its affiliated companies, with flagrantly violating a children's privacy law, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, that is COPA, and also alleged they infringed an existing Federal Trade Commission 2019 consent order against TikTok for violating COPA. So as that attorney was saying in that video that we just seen, this is no new news, and they have not changed their ways. In 2019, this came up, and why is it coming up again in 2024? So the complaint alleges defendants failed to comply with the COPA requirement to notify and obtain parental consent before collecting and using personal information from children under the age of 13. TikTok knowingly and repeatedly violated kids' privacy, threatening the safety of millions of children across the country, said Federal Trade Commission Chair Lena M. Khan. The Federal Trade Commission will continue to use the full scope of its authorities to protect children online, especially as firms deploy increasingly sophisticated digital tools to surveil kids and profit from their data. All right. The Justice Department is committed to upholding parents' ability to protect their children's privacy, said Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Brian Boyton. This action is necessary to prevent the defendants who are repeat offenders and operate on a massive scale from collecting and using young children's private information without any parental consent or control. ByteDance and its related companies alleged were aware of the need to comply with the COPA rule and the 2019 consent order and knew about TikTok's compliance failures that put children's data and privacy at risk. Instead of complying, ByteDance and TikTok spent years knowingly allowing millions of children under 13 on their platform designed for users 13 years and older in violation of COPA, according to the complaint. Now, in my opinion, I think 13 is still too young. I think that if you're going to be on a social media platform, you need to at least be 18 years old. That's just my personal opinion. Y'all let me know in the chat what y'all think about that. I just think that you should be a adult that is at least almost about to graduate high school or either graduated high school before you are able to be on a platform of any kind, because not only about the personal information being leaked, but they are predators online that are trying to get into kids' private chats and stuff like that, pretending to be kids themselves, and they're predators out there. So I feel like that 13 is too young. I feel like if you're under the age of 17, you should not be on any platform that's social media. That's just my personal opinion. But you guys, y'all weigh in the chat and let me know, how do y'all feel about that? So as of 2020, TikTok had a policy of maintaining accounts of children that it knew were under 13 unless the child made an explicit admission of age and other rigid conditions were met, according to the complaint. TikTok human reviewers allege spent an average of only 5 to 7 seconds reviewing each account to make their determination of whether the account belonged to a child. So how are you going to be able to tell in 5 to 7 seconds if the account belonged to a child? I mean, that's no time. There's no time at all. The company alleged continued to collect personal data from these underage users, including data that enabled TikTok to target advertising to them without notifying their parents and obtaining their consent as required by the COPA rule. Even after it reportedly changed its policy not to require an explicit admission of age, TikTok still continued to unlawfully maintain and use personal information of children, according to the complaint. TikTok's practices prompted its own employees to raise concerns. As alleged, after failing to delete numerous underage child accounts, one compliance employee noted, "We could get in trouble because of COPA." All right. So we got some whistleblowers right here, right? That's what it sounds like. In addition, the complaint alleges that TikTok built back doors into its platform that allowed children to bypass the age gate aimed at screening children under 13. TikTok allegedly allowed children to create accounts without having to provide their age or obtain parental consent to use TikTok by using credentials from third-party services like Google and Instagram. TikTok classified such as accounts as age unknown accounts, which grew to millions of accounts according to the complaint. Even when it directed children to use the TikTok Kids Mode service, a more protected version for kids, the complaint charges that TikTok collected and used their personal information in violation of COPA. It also alleges that TikTok collected numerous categories of information and far more data than it needed, such as information about children's activities on the app and multiple types of persistent identifiers, which it used to build profiles on children while failing to notify parents about the full extent of its data collection and use practices. Now, for example, TikTok shared this personal data with third parties such as Facebook and AppsFlyer to persuade existing Kids Mode users to use the service more after their use had declined or ceased through a practice TikTok called retargeting less active users, according to the complaint. TikTok also allegedly made it difficult for parents to request their children's accounts be deleted. When parents managed to navigate the multiple steps required to submit a deletion request, TikTok often failed to comply with those requests. TikTok also imposed unnecessary and duplicative hurdles for parents seeking to have their children's data deleted. Go down some more. The practice allegedly continued even after the executive responsible for child safety issues told TikTok's then CEO, "We already have all the info that's needed to delete a child's data when a parent requested." Yet TikTok would not delete it unless the parent fills out a second duplicative form. If the parent did not do that, the executive allegedly added, "Then we have actual knowledge of underage users and took no action." All right. The complaint also claimed that TikTok began violating the terms of the 2019 FTC order shortly after it went into effect. Two TikTok entities previously, Musically and Musically Inc., which ByteDance acquired in 2017 and renamed, agreed to the terms of the order to settle allegations that they violated the COPA rule by unlawfully collecting personal information from children under the age of 13. Additionally, the complaint alleges that TikTok failed to notify parents about all the personal data they were collecting from their children, obtain parental consent for the collection and the use of that data, limited the collection, use, and disclosures of children's personal information, and delete children's personal information when requested by parents or when it was no longer needed. The complaint asked the court to impose civil penalties against ByteDance and TikTok and to enter a permanent injunction against them to prevent future violations of COPA. The FTC Act allows civil penalties up to $51,744 per violation per day. The commission voted 3-0 to 2 to refer the complaint to the Department of Justice. Commissioners Melissa Holyoke and Andrew N. Ferguson was recused from participating. The complaint was filed in a U.S. District Court for the Central District of California. And I have that as well. Let's see what's going on in the chat. So TikTok is one app. I'm not on. I have grandkids, so now the parents have to deal with this and the phone protections. It's one of those things where consistently our personal information as adults and now as our kids, and our kids are on these different apps that are targeted to our children, can possibly be targeted as well. And these kids don't understand, I don't want to say that there's not kids that are highly intelligent and do understand, but you got to understand that you're talking about kids that are under the age of 13 that may not understand the information that they might be sharing inside of these apps. Okay. And so it is a growing concern that we cannot ignore. All right. A lot of times when our kids are on their tablets, on their phones, or whatever devices they're on, we cannot, as parents, always monitor everything that they're doing. And even if it's in kids mode, like even YouTube has a kids mode, we have to be sure that the information and the things that our kids are seeing is age appropriate and is not asking them for information that is not age appropriate. So I want to pull up one more thing, and I hope that it shows. So this is the actual case right here. And this document was filed on August the 2nd of 2024 of this year. And this is the United States of America versus the complainant, ByteDance Limited, and a Cayman Islands company, ByteDance Inc., a Delaware corporation, TikTok Limited, a Cayman Island company, TikTok Inc., a California corporation, TikTok PTE Limited, a Singapore company, and TikTok US Data Security Inc., a Delaware corporation. So this is the actual case. It's 31 pages. Of course, I'm not going to read all 31 pages, but I will link it in the description of this video if anybody would like to read it. But the first part of it says the nature of the case. This is the most important part. The defendants operate TikTok, one of the world's largest online social media platforms. TikTok collects, stores, and processes vast amounts of data from its users, who include millions of American children younger than 13. So it says who include millions of Americans' children younger than 13. Like I said, this app is targeted to young adults. All right. For years, defendants have knowingly allowed children under 13 to create and use TikTok accounts without their parents' knowledge or consent, and have collected extensive data from those children and have failed to comply with the parents' request to delete their children's accounts and personal information. Defendants' conduct violates the Children Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998, COPA, and Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule or COPA rule, a federal statute and regulations that protect children's privacy and safety online. It also defies an order that this court entered in 2019 to resolve a lawsuit in which the United States alleged that TikTok Inc. and TikTok Limited's predecessors companies similarly violated COPA and the COPA rule by allowing children to create and access accounts without their parents' knowledge or consent, collecting data from those children, and failing to comply with parents' requests to delete their children's account and information. To put an end of TikTok's unlawful massive scale invasions of children's privacy, the United States brings the lawsuit seeking injunctive relief, civil penalties, and other relief. Now, that's all I'm going to read on this. So, I want you guys, if you are in the chat, to let me know, what do you guys think about this? And if you have kids that are under the age of 13, and are they on the TikTok app? Do they use the app? Do you allow them to be able to use the TikTok app? If there's anybody else that want to weigh in on this conversation, because I feel like it's just one of those things that we just got to be aware of what's going on. It may not be anything, but it's one of those things where I tell people all the time to keep their credit frozen, because you never know where there's going to be a data breach. And as I was saying at the beginning of this live, I just did a video because there was a big national data breach. It's so important that we also protect our kids' data as well, because that's who they target when they are creating fake accounts like using CPNs, the credit profile numbers. They usually use children and older adults' information to create the fictitious accounts with, because kids slide under the radar when it comes to their personal information, and older people that's already have bought homes, already have paid for a lot of the things that they're going to use with their credit. They usually target those two groups because kids usually their social security numbers, their personal information is not in use. And a lot of times we don't realize that our kids' information has even been compromised until they get older and they go to apply for things, or they go and you actually pull their full credit report by the time they're 18 and they realize things have been used or put in their name. It happens all the time. It does. And so therefore, when I see things like this, I got to hurry up and try to get the information to my subscribers, because I don't want us to be a victim. As I said in that last video about that big massive data breach, we have to be proactive instead of reactive. We have to do things beforehand, before stuff hit the fan. We need to go ahead and already be on it. Okay, because it's not a question if these things are going to happen, it's a question of when these things are going to happen. So we have to be proactive and make sure that we are doing the steps now to protect ourselves, our kids, and our elder people. Okay, because the scammers are not taking any day off, as I always tell you, but also these companies that are trying to sell you things. You go on your phone, it's asking you, can it track your information? They want to tailor ads to what is going on in your phone. How many of you have actually been searching something on the web? You might have been searching, just for a lack of an example, you might have been searching a microwave. Okay, just for a lack of example, you might have been searching for a microwave in your Google search, and you go on Facebook, and then there's a ton of microwaves, or you go on TikTok and you see a ton of microwaves. All of a sudden, all these ads of microwaves, because they are using your data, your habits in your phone to target ads and target these things back to you. So if they're doing it to you, then you can imagine they're doing the same thing to your kids and what they are seeing. Okay. So we have to, like I said, we have to be more alert of what's going on, and more vigilant about protecting our personal data, and especially our kids, the ones that when fraud happens, when data breaches happen, when those type of things happen, those are the ones that tend to slide under the radar along with our elderly, because their credit and their information is not actively being used. It's not actively being used. So that's how the scammers can get in. That's how the fraudsters can get in when it comes to the personal data. That's how they can target certain demographic of people. Okay. Children and elderly people, they are the most targeted all the time, their information. So that's why it's important for me to bring you this information, because you need to be freezing your kids' credit reports as well. As I told you guys in my last video where I talk about freezing your credit reports, you need to be freezing your kids' credit reports, your own credit reports, and your elderly people's credit reports. The elderly, your elders in your families, okay? And other people that you may know that might need this information. That's why it's so important that we share these videos where we're talking about these things that can help us, so that we're not victims and that we're not somebody that's trying to be a part of a class action lawsuit. Because I'm pretty sure if this gets a lot of wind, there's going to be some class action lawsuits from parents that may have tried to get their kids' information deleted and was unsuccessful, or like it said, made them jump through all kind of hoops to try to delete the kids' information. There might be a class action lawsuit that gets filed eventually about this information, because this has gone back to 2019. So they call in TikTok a repeat offender. They have not changed what they're supposed to be changing. So that's why the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice is going after them. Okay. So I will give them kudos for trying to protect our kids. But as I was just saying, we just had this mass data breach through National Public Data, which is a background checking company, okay, that checks people's background, probably screening for employment, to be a tenant if you're trying to get an apartment, job screening, all those types of things. That our personal information is floating around in cyberland, just waiting for some hacker to get it and use it against us, okay? And make our lives a living hell because our information is out there, okay? And so we have to limit also our footprint on the internet. We have to limit the amount of information that we are sharing on these apps, okay? As I was saying in that live, we got to limit it to just the barest of information, because any of these platforms could be monitoring our information. These apps are tracking our data or asking us to track our data. They just started asking. They weren't asking before, right? And we got to make sure that we are not sharing a lot of our personal information where hackers and scammers and fraudsters can connect the dots to put things together to try to steal our information. Because a lot of times they might not have the whole picture, but they might can go to our socials and go to other things on the web and piece the picture together to be able to carry out their fraud and their schemes. So we just got to be more careful and make sure that we are doing everything that we can. And if you are not a subscriber of the Star Carter Personal Finance channel, then you need to go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Cut on the notifications, because I'm doing a lot more live streams as I've been seeing these things popping up on the news, because it's so very important. And I can't wait sometimes to film a video, edit it, do all those different things before I get the information. So that's why I'm doing a lot more lives. I got another live coming today, this afternoon at 6 o'clock. So guys, y'all make sure that you're subscribed and you cut on the notifications. We cannot rely on you seeing my videos in the feed. The only way to guarantee that you're going to get this information is to cut on those notifications. And if this video really sheds some light on what these things that's going on, these things that are actually not only targeting us as adults, but our kids as well, please like this video and share it with other people, especially that got kids under the age of 13, because it's very important that we are protecting our kids' information. It's very important. So thank you so much. And let's see who else I got. I got Miss Pamela said, hello, everyone. So true. Thank you so much. I am going to get off this live. I got to head on out in a little bit, but I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys come back this afternoon. The live is scheduled for this afternoon. I'm going to be talking about a 70-year-old lady that was fired from Home Depot. So you guys, y'all don't want to miss that information. You guys come back, cut on your notifications again, and I'm going to see y'all this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in.